should see multiple tells to verify your conclusion. I don't always point out every movement. It's just habit for me at this point. But I am making a conscious effort to point them out. The eyes don't always say deception. A visual thinker, an emotional thinker, and a memory-based thinker can look like a deceiver when compared to each other, when they are not. The eyes are a good tool for seeing which area of the brain is being accessed. There is very good research on the brain for function and mapping. Understand by their own admittance, they are far from mapping or understanding the entire brain. Today we're going to be looking at Planet X via NASA, and we're going to look at Greer and Goode. And up first is Planet X. This is NASA's NEOWISE program for scientists. You have to remember that these people are scientists. They're not always in front of the camera. They're not doing interviews every day. So they're not used to being in front of a camera or a question-answer situation. And we need to take that into consideration as we watch them. And we can already see, other than her picking up something over here, that every one of them have their arms under the desk, hiding. Let's get started on this one caller who asked them about Planet X.
Thank you. I realize you're focusing on near-Earth asteroids today, but there's been so much talk about the potential for finding a Planet X or some sort of large body.
And he starts talking about Planet X. This gentleman in the purple immediately looks to the female. And in watching this, the press conference, whoever has the information, they tend to look at that person who has the information.
Through the Y.
And then Leary or Lenny, couldn't really understand how he's pronouncing his name, but he looks to the female.
Survey. Can you comment on any stat?
And she looks to him.
This on that sort of.
And you see that little head shake that she did?
Survey. Can you comment on any status on that sort of search or
the little head shake she did? Do I do this? Do you hear this? And watch his reaction.
Maybe even reassure people that Planet X isn't coming to get them next year.
He gives her the positive. Yes. Answer the question.
Yes, this is Amy Meinzer. I'm happy to answer this one. Planet X is not coming to get us.
Her body is already singing.
But we are looking to see if there are any other bodies.
And here we see her arms. They're underneath the table. So we can't see how her hands are reacting, but seeing as how they're coming away from her body as she's speaking, we can just assume that her hands are apart and they're open, which means free flowing of information and openness to the topic.
In the outer part of the solar system with the WISE data, this is a very natural project for WISE. And so we're still working on it right now.
Her head shaking no does not necessarily mean negative. We're still working on it. Isn't her saying with her head shaking no that it's coming to get us? That she's just secretly saying we're not working on it. No, what she's saying is she's answering the question, Planet X is not a threat. So she's still shaking her head no when she says we're still working on it. She's shaking her head no in the negative if it's not coming to get us. She just keeps reaffirming that. I hope I articulated that.
Just returned a huge amount of data from the telescope that's going to take us a long time to sort through. But the initial results are very promising. You may have seen earlier results where we've discovered.
And she's still talking with her hands under the desk. So she's not closed off.
A new class of very cool type of stars with WISE. But the search is still on, and we don't think that there's anything that's hazardous in the outer solar system. We think that this is just a sort of if there is something out there, it would be a large body in a roughly circular orbit.
And she was singing while she was doing it. So her body is singing, she's emphasizing, she's just having a conversation with you, and her arms are talking. She's telling her truth.
Our next caller, Denise Chow from space.com. Denise.
So when you say the initial results are very promising, the initial results are very promising. Anything else you wanted to say on that point?
We've actually been able to confirm the discovery of 100 new objects that are these very cool stars called brown dwarfs.
Now she's still using her hands, but her arms have come closer to her side. They don't open as much as when she was talking about the bodies and not brown dwarfs and suns of that nature. It would generally mean that she's much more guarded, and we can't see the hands, so we're going to have to assume that by the closeness of her arms.
And so that's very similar to what people are interested in looking for. So we've actually found some of these that are relatively close to the Earth, but none of these are closer at this point
And her body is still singing, so she's still telling her truth.
than the nearest star to our solar system. So it's a good start, though.
And you saw her head shaking in the positive.
These that are relatively close to the Earth, but none of these are closer at this point than the nearest star to our solar system.
And that is because her mind is back on the question about, yes, we did find this. And to the next. This is Greer. And he does these really long 3-hour plus speaking conferences. And as I'm watching him speak, he brings a lot of documentation with him to back up what he's saying. But he's off, mentally off. And I'm going to try and show you the discrepancy because it's there mixed in with him when he speaks about even his documents, but it's something I feel that people should be aware of. Now, he's talking about this woman who has given him a story, and he retold the story to the audience. She had 5,000 acres, lots and lots of sheep. There were alien spacecrafts flying into this place with drugs and armaments and apparently chemical weapons. And the chemical weapons were leaking, and her sheep were dying. So she called Greer to get him to help her. That's the short part. Now, all that, as he said, it was true as he's recounting the story. All right, we're going to watch as he retells the story so you can get a little baseline of what I'm seeing.
To get away from it, because they made it very clear, stay away from this. Senator Daschle, he said, I can't help you anymore. So she reached out to me saying, can you help me? Because part of what was happening is that some of...
Now, the Senator Daschle part was him retelling what she told him. So as she says that, or I shouldn't say, as he says what this woman said, it is coming across as truth.
These chemical weapons that were stored there were leaking into not only the groundwater, but and where her sheep, and a lot of them were dying. And it was like these containers that were corroding. It was like a Superfund site, but classified.
So you see his body is singing with him. He's open about this whole conversation. He's looking at his audience.
It's a disaster. And that's why she was so concerned. She had 5,000 acres.
And before anybody says anything about him having his hand behind his back, apparently he does not like his microphone or his receiver because he keeps messing with both of them.
And I said, look, you know,
And this is where we get into the deception. Look where he's looking.
She had 5,000 acres.
And he 5,000, and now he's looking down, okay? He no longer wants to look at his audience. He is about to go into what he said.
And I said, look, you know,
He tightens his neck. His eyebrows go up just a little bit and then back down.
I'll make some calls and see what I can do, but
He was thinking, when you look down like that and you have those reactions in your neck and your eyes and your head goes to the side, something in there didn't go exactly as he's saying. You know, look, I just can't. And they're not even looking at you. And then you got those other tells coming through. Whatever he said to her was not that.
I've got a heavy lift here I'm doing on my own besides your sheep. But this is a very real case. Then on the day after I met with and briefed the head of intelligence,
He squinches up. He's still thinking. His brain is still going. And that's when you sit there and you hear him as he speaks. While he's saying this, he had a little bit of that lie came through why he didn't want to go play with this woman to begin with in her story. Her truth is coming out in him as truth. And then he deceives on what he exactly said to her.
intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, I got a cryptic invitation from
He got a cryptic invitation. He looks right back down.
2 men. My wife and I call them Mr. Allen 1
And he's going really still in hhis body. His singing has quieted.
and Mr. Allen 2.
He's not looking at the audience, and he's playing with his ear.
So not their name. It was our code name. I don't want to talk about who they actually are until they're deceased. I can confirm they're deceased.
He's being very, shall we say, shifty. There's a reason why they say shifty when they talk about people like this. Shifty.
And they invited me over to this condo in Crystal City near National Airport, which turned out was the home of a former congressman who was sort of a consigliere and sort of advisor to George H.W. Bush. And in the room with him was a burly man who was a Science Applications International Corporation executive who was living virtually...
He's becoming very still as he's telling this story.
...in retirement exile in France, who had come in for the meeting. And it was shocking what I learned,
And he goes back to playing with his ear.
Not so shocking given what I've just told you. But they said, "Do you understand how dangerous this group is?" I said, "Yes, I do."
His body is not singing with him. This is Corey Goode. And the reason why we're watching this one in particular is this is the only one I could find where he actually was deceptive. And we'll watch a little bit so you can see his norm, and then I'll point out his deceptive.
1987 all the way to 2007. Came back in time. Now
He's got his head up, his shoulders back. She's describing his credentials, who he is, what he's been through. He's not in shame of it. He's not looking away. He's owning it.
He then lived through that time and is here. And most recently, he is the delegate for the Blue Avians and the Sphere Being Alliance, which is just incredible. He's really bridging worlds, bridging the extraterrestrials to our civilization in amazing and beautiful ways. And it's really honored.
And he's very much owning it.
To have him because he's, I guess, most commonly known as a whistleblower, but to me he's a wholeness bringer.
And that little smile and the head shake. When you have someone who's being deceptive and any of that, they don't really want to own that deception, and he's completely owning it.
And it's integrating spirituality, extraterrestrial, ufology, and just blasting all the things we've thought of and really bringing in ascension into the piece of extraterrestrials and spirituality. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
It's been an honor to be here.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And did she get that right? That
was good.
He's very relaxed. That was good. Yep. Yep. I own it.
Because it's a little bit tricky right there from the 87 to 2000 and then backwards.
I was born in 87, so I can remember that one.
It was actually in 86 at the end of the year, December, during my Christmas break.
Wow. When you were how old? 16?
And his body's singing with it. Now let's go to where the deception is.
Problems I had was all the food was so bland.
Right.
You know,
when you go to the vegan diet, or you're just thinking, I'm going to eat healthy.
At home. We really didn't know where to start. You know, we knew to cut out certain foods, but we didn't know what to replace them with to give me the nourishment.
Right.
So this has been a very important experience for us both.
Now, as he listened to what he said, he's talking about the nourishment, which apparently is what is important in his mind.
Awesome.
So, and how has the food tasted compared to what you were doing before?
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
That's where the deception came in. Oh, it's great. Yeah. Watch how his body reacts. And now this is where we can say he shook his head no on the taste. And we can say the mindset is there on the food. And so that he's answering truthfully this time with just his body, not his mouth. Oh, it's been great. And he's shaking his head no on the word taste.
So, and how has the food tasted compared to what you were doing before?
Oh, it's great.
He went extremely still. He got in that deep breath, shook his head no. Oh, it's great. His body quit singing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, this is Bridget. She's kind of what you were doing before.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, this is Bridget. She's kind
And he shakes it off.
of a magician with food. And
Now we're going to go to a vlog that he does, and it's one of the recent ones.
David, I guess, failed to answer the
organizer's emails confirming that we were going, and he told me that it was confirmed. So I told everyone else. So sadly, no, we're not going to be there. And
Now, the thing with these vlogs that people do is kind of like talking to yourself in the mirror. And it's extremely hard to talk to yourself and lie to yourself. So these are great dipsticks when dealing with someone that you're trying to get deception or not. As we just seen, he's talking about David not confirming AlienCon, and was telling the truth.
I really apologize to people who bought tickets and who are going to see us.
Actually, his stress came out on one word.
Everyone else. So sadly, no, we're not going to be there.
Sadly, no. On just the disappointment that he was breaking, that they're not going to be there. Now, it seems like David Wilcox and him are joined at the hip.
Secret space program insiders that are popping up. I've been told that a lot of this is to be expected. It's natural for people to, bring in the information like that. But there is a certain component of this, this phenomenon, I guess we'll call it, that is mirroring what happened with the super soldier community. There were some credible super soldiers that came out and that have come out since then, but they had so many people go in that were being manipulated to water down the information that now a lot of researchers really don't pay attention to the super soldier topic at all.
So here he's talking about a super soldier topic, and he's being very truthful. He's not lying to himself.
Their problems are not as big,
right?
Or as big as ours.
This is one of his vlogs. I think Wilcox has the camera. He's semi doing a good job on it. And now he's talking about one of the aliens and what they've gone through to get themselves out of the slave system.
But there were similarities where they would be able to come in and be assistants with advice.
Right. Did they have to beat back the whole AI, demon? They did.
Yep.
Did they let it progress for a while there first?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So
it's
what happened?
very, very similar to what happened here. They had the Draco component.
Now, he's not a very good cameraman whatsoever, but at least we saw at least one eye as it comes through. When she asked him about what they did, he accessed a memory.
And the AI component that
and he's still accessing memory.
Ruled their system for a while, and then they went through a process of getting rid of the AI, the Draco, and going through this huge consciousness renaissance.
And he's still accessing AI and giving her good eye contact.
That's they're well in their consciousness renaissance right now.
We saw something. I'm gonna go look at it again.
That's they're well in their consciousness renaissance right now.
Do they
still referencing memory, but he also referenced a visual memory on that one.
show similar signs of creativity, or what would be exemplified their forms of creativity?
They don't have a military anymore.
Wonderful.
They all focus on art and consciousness.
Yeah.
All right, this film is getting ridiculous. He can't keep it on his face nor his body. And the little bit we're seeing, his body is singing and he is accessing memory as he speaks to her. For future reference, for any request of videos, when the video is this bad, or actually when they're worse than this, I don't like looking at them. It's so hard to sit there and see the things that I like to see.
And creativity.
Yeah, that seems to me that's a really key component. Are they a monetary-based system, or are they total energy, just energy expended and contribution?
Yeah, they don't use any planet that has a monetary system is basically a prison planet.
Yeah.
A controlled planet.
Yeah.
Well, that was Planet X, Greer, and Goode. Planet X Here's my opinions. Planet X, the scientists that we were able to actually see and speak on it truly believe that there's nothing coming to get Earth. They are guarded on the dwarf, the brown dwarf. So it would say to me, in my opinion, that there's something there. Not necessarily coming to get us, because she showed there's no stress in that. There's nothing that's going to come and get us. But when you have something of a brown dwarf, they have huge gravity pulls, and that in itself could be a danger, which in my opinion might explain why she was guarded and she pulled in on that. With Greer, I would suggest, if he's not showing you actual paperwork that can be vetted on where it came from, to just assume that he is telling you a story. A story. From watching him, he seems to try and make himself more important and more bigger than he actually is. He's just somebody who's went and gathered a bunch of information and is presenting it to an audience. And any story that goes with that information, I would ignore. It would just be easier just to look at the information and decide for yourself. You'd get a better, cleaner thought process. As for Mr. Goode, he really believes in what he's saying. The only thing I could find him being deceptive about is saying a white lie about how good the food is. An honorable thing. Other than that, I mean, he's pulling memory for what he's saying, especially in this clip that we're seeing. He's pulling off memory and a visual memory. Does that mean I'm going to run out and start going, oh, there's aliens and they're nice and good and we're going to be all great? I'm suspicious of everyone, even aliens. I'm also suspicious of, this could be just a belief system. So everything is of skepticism, and that's where you need to be. But he truly believes in what he's saying. If you liked it, leave a like. If you liked the content, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.